Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the absolute foundation of how we build our spiritual lives. And we're going to do it by exploring a true classic, E.M. Bounds' teachings on answered prayer. I want you to think of your faith kind of like a house that you're constructing. We've got the blueprints, we've got all the materials, but let's be real. So often, the actual building process feels way more frustrating than fulfilling. So, let's dive right into this and see how we can completely transform our approach to it. Section 1. The architecture of faith. There's this brilliant definition from an architect who described a house as a vessel for an extremely ordinary, joyful, and rewarding daily life. I absolutely love that imagery, a vessel for joy. But here's the hard truth for a lot of us. When we're building our Christian faith, the one room in that house that often feels the least joyful is prayer. Even though prayer is supposed to be the most ordinary, everyday part of our lives, it just frequently turns into this source of guilt or frustration. We know the vessel is sitting right there, but the joy is completely missing. Which brings us to a question I think we all wrestle with at some point. Why do we lack patience and fail at prayer even when our vessel is perfectly ready? We believe in answers, we know we're supposed to pray, yet we still stumble. We just give up way too easily. Well, to solve this incredibly common struggle, we are going to look at the insights of a guy who figured out the blueprint better than almost anyone else in history. Section 2. The Prophet of Prayer. Edward McHenry Bounds, or E.M. Bounds, as he's affectionately known by so many, is universally called the Prophet of Prayer. And what's so amazing about his classic text, Answered Prayer, is that it wasn't just born from sitting around in some comfy armchair theorizing about theology. No way. As the old saying goes, this is a book written with knees, not a pen. He literally lived out every single word he wrote through intense physical practice. Let me put this into perspective for you. 4, as in 4 a.m. That is the exact time E.M. Bounds woke up every single day. Didn't matter what the weather was doing, didn't matter how tired he was feeling, he was up well before the sun. And what exactly was he doing at 4 a.m.? 3. He spent 3 straight hours on his knees praying every single day. This wasn't just a quick 5-minute request before running out the door to start his day. This was the disciplined, focused work of a master craftsman building his daily vessel. Section 3. Achieving white-hot prayer. Bounds actually breaks down the anatomy of prayer into 5 essential elements. He lists them out as will, thought, emotion, conscience, and intellect. And his main argument here is that for a Christian to pray effectively, these 5 parts cannot just be operating on their own. They have to cooperate. They have to harmonize. When your will perfectly aligns with your emotions and your intellect agrees with your conscience, boom, they come together to create what he calls a white-hot prayer. It's this total, incredible alignment of your entire inner being. But here's where it gets really interesting, because Bounds doesn't just stop at the mind and spirit. He contrasts weak prayer with white-hot prayer by actually bringing in the physical body. He makes this totally surprising point that to maintain long, powerful prayer, your physical body actually needs to cooperate in peak condition. You really can't separate the physical vessel from the spiritual act. White-hot prayer demands your entire being, mind, spirit, and body, all working together. Now, Bounds was definitely known for his straight talk, and he delivers some real tough love right here. He says, and I quote, "Weak prayer cannot receive answers, overcome adversity, or achieve complete and amazing victory." Think about it. When you are facing a massive wall in your life, like a real, breathless kind of problem, a weak, giving up kind of prayer simply isn't going to cut it. You've got to push past that weakness and establish a rhythm of prayer that is powerful, simple, and persistent. Section 4. Lessons from Ezra and Nehemiah. To prove this, let's look at some historical examples. First up, we have Ezra. Ezra's prayer wasn't super complicated, but it was incredibly intense. And more importantly, it never stopped. Because of his powerful, simple, and persistent prayer, he sparked a massive real-world religious reformation. The guy didn't just change a few hearts, he changed an entire society. Then we have Nehemiah. And the crucial takeaway here is that Nehemiah didn't just throw up one prayer and forget about it. He persisted. But even more importantly, Nehemiah didn't stop praying when things started going well. It is so easy to pray when we're in the middle of a crisis, right? But Nehemiah shows us the sheer discipline of praying through success, maintaining that strong, unyielding connection no matter what the circumstances look like. Section 5. The Power of Praying Parents. Bounds also points out a pretty stark reality. Spiritual life collapses really easily at home. It makes sense if you think about it. The home is often the place where we let our guard down the most. We might be super disciplined out in public, but the home is the ultimate front line for spiritual discipline. Because honestly, if the vessel is cracked at home, everything else just leaks out. To combat this collapse, Bounds points to the incredible cause and effect we see in the story of Hannah and Samuel. You don't just get a legendary prayer warrior like Samuel out of nowhere. A prayer warrior like Samuel only comes from a powerful, simple, and persistent praying mother like Hannah. Her white-hot prayer directly resulted in the life and the incredible leadership of her son. The home really is where the greatest spiritual victories are quietly won. Section 6. Moving the Heavenly Throne. So why do we study all this? Bounds, Ezra, Nehemiah, Hannah? Well, reading this classic text teaches us how to literally call down supernatural answers from heaven. When we align our intellect, our emotions, our will, and our physical bodies into powerful, simple, and persistent prayer, we actually move the heavenly throne. We are actively inviting the miraculous right into our everyday situations. And when we finally do that, it brings us right back to our opening architectural metaphor. Mastering this kind of prayer turns our daily faith back into a joyful vessel. It completely stops being a burden. Instead, it becomes this ordinary, everyday action that actually makes us smile to ourselves because we know we have this incredible, direct connection to the architect of the universe. I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. If powerful, simple, and persistent prayer can truly move the heavenly throne, what is stopping you from building your vessel today? Seriously, think about those 3 hours E.M. Bounds spent on his knees. You might not start with 3 hours, but you can absolutely start with a white-hot intention today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep building, keep praying, and I'll see you next time.